Can you tell me what you know about what's going on in Syria right now?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I don't really know anything.
Actually, I'm not sure.
Hey, can you tell me what's going on with the issue in Syria right now?
Absolutely not.
Why is that?
Because I do not read the newspaper and I do not watch the news.
Syria? I know somebody's fighting and we want to send the military there, but we definitely shouldn't.
Well, I know what the president's saying. I know what all his people are saying. I know what all the opposition is saying. It's a tough question. Should we go in and make a strike or shouldn't we?
Yeah, that is the question. What do you think about that?
I think he has a tough decision to make. I wouldn't want to have to make it.
It's a major world power. I don't know, I guess I feel it's our duty to actually intervene in such a situation. I don't think just appeasing and just sitting aside, like it's similar to what happened with Hitler. You know, we sat back and allowed mass genocide to take place. And if we can start now, maybe we can prevent a lot of other lives from being lost.
Do I know what's going on in Syria? I know there's a lot of murdering being done.
That's definitely true. There was also a chemical attack. Did you hear about that?
Yes, I have.
Al-Assad, he, allegedly used gas attacks on women, children, men, innocent civilians in order to quell an uprising, a rebellion.
Now Obama wants to intervene. What do you think about that?
I don't think he should.
Why is that?
Well, I don't want him to start another war. That's number one. Number two, there are two entities in that country that don't like Americans.
I know there's basically a civil war going on there.
What do you think about Obama wanting to intervene?
Well, I would prefer that he didn't. And I'm an Obama supporter. And I sense that at his core, he's a bit reluctant to intervene himself.
Yeah, it's a little bit scary because, you're going into a different country. They didn't really invite you and you're just trying to, do something about something that you may or may not know that much about. I think that it's just really hard to determine those kind of things because if you look at this situation in Syria, it's not a repeating, but something like Darfur where they kind of ignored it at first and then next thing you know there was a genocide. So I feel like that they have the best intentions trying to go over there, but this may not be the best way.
You can intervene all kinds of ways. I don't think to intervene in death is the way that you intervene that has any kind of functionality or performance if what you're looking for is like a heightened humanity.
I absolutely don't understand it. As a Canadian, we were very excited about Mr. Obama becoming the president, and it's been one disappointment after another. But of course, people have been dying in the Congo in the millions, right? But we don't do anything because it's a source of minerals that we need, and that regime kind of cooperates with us. People have been dying, of starvation, etc. But it seems that if people die of a gas attack or something like that, then all of a sudden that's the impetus for intervention. Why is it worse to die from chemical weapons than from cruise missiles? I don't think to the dying it makes a huge difference. And coming from a nation that dropped cluster bombs all over Vietnam and all over Afghanistan and all over Iraq, cluster bombs, you're familiar with them? Yeah, and what they do to children?
I hope, that his actual intentions are to, reprimand an oppressive government. I hope that's the real reason. We've been told things that are not true sometimes. The world community should step in some respect, in my mind.
I'm pretty tired of being in a war. We've had enough wars, and I have some real reservation about our country being the policeman of the world.
I don't think it's our place to intervene.
I sort of agree, but at the same time, I think something has to be done about it, so.
Unfortunately, I'm not too well informed, but I know there's a conflict there. The only thing I could say is that I don't really think we should intervene.
Military strikes, especially if the whole world isn't behind us, isn't the right thing to do.
I've always had a problem with the U.S. intervening in everyone else's business. It doesn't end well, and I don't think it's really going to help them.
I don't think it's a good idea, personally. I think he shouldn't put himself in that kind of situation. He shouldn't put America in that kind of situation. He's only addressing a few news stations. I think he should also address the newly station that just came to America, Al Jazeera.
I feel like that it's like a false flag event that's happening that seems very similar to what happened after 9/11. We've funded and trained the people. The gas that's supposedly gassing the citizens there is a gas that we supplied to them, and now we're going to attack them for that very thing. But also to say that we're going to go and save babies, like that's kind of the general fervor of everybody that I talk to, that we're going to say, like everybody wants to save babies, but to do that, we're going to do that with bombs and with drone missiles, and I don't think that you can bring like a apex killing machine to go and save babies.
I think that the United States should let them work out their issues on their own, and whatever the consequence may be, then we should deal with it.
There's all kinds of levels of poverty and things we have to take apart in our infrastructure for our security interests. They start here. And when that's all clean, then you can go and lend a hand to your neighbor and say, hey, look, your fence fell down. But we don't belong in the middle of somebody else's problems, especially when I'm pretty sure either side doesn't wish us well. And unless you can prove to me that they're going to be grateful and come over here and help us mend our fences after we've helped them with tons of money, I read today, and not all of it's getting to the people that might be slightly grateful, but we don't even know if they would be.
Do you agree with the military strike he's going for?
As a veteran, no. It's about time that we stop just jumping into other people's business, thinking that we are the policemen of the world. You know, it's time for us to really start focusing on ourselves here. We have people who are dying every day, who are sick, who are hungry.
Some people were telling me that it might cause World War III. You think that's a little far of a stretch?
I think that's a far stretch. I mean, when I was in the military, they said, oh, if we go into Iraq, Iran's going to be, ticked off, and that's going to kick off World War III. Didn't happen twice in a row when we were protecting Kuwait.
It could create a big commotion, but I don't think it would create another world war.
Russia and China will never start a world war with the United States.
Why do you say that?
It would be their doomsday.
Days gone by, if I could catch your glancing eye, it was on the world.
Just tell me your thoughts and why you're here today.
Well, I'm here because I don't want to see us get into another ridiculous war. I remember Iraq. I remember arguing with people about it. There was no substantiation for going in. I have a son-in-law who was killed in Afghanistan, and I have an 11-year-old grandson without a father. And so, yeah, it hits home.
I believe in peaceful action, never military action.
What about you?
What happened in Iraq? Based on lies and suspicion, and it's the same rhetoric, suspicion of weapons. And I think we really need to remember that we used white phosphorus in Fallujah, we used Agent Orange in Vietnam. We don't look to ourselves and our own accountability. It seems unfortunately that Obama is hell-bent on a military attack. This was predicted in Iraq too, that if we would attack Iraq, it would unleash just demon after demon in the Middle East, and that's exactly what happened. I think we should be willing to put our lives on the line to say no, not in my name, not in my name. And I was following Iraqi refugees in Syria and in Jordan. And when I think of Syria and the state that it's in, and that we would contemplate a military strike and what that would unleash, the consequences, it's just horrifying.